Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cooldown Lap presented by Midwest Motorsports. I'm your host, Anthony Castor, driver of the 8 car in the Cup Series and the Road Series. I'm joined here with James Johnson, the voice of Midwest Motorsports, and in the background tonight is Justin Thaler, driver of the 2 in the Road Series and Cup Series and Trucks. So we're gonna get into this week's action. Before we do, I just want to kind of check base here with James. James, how you doing, man? How'd everything go down there in Georgia for you?
Hey, Ant. Thanks for asking, man. We did good. I didn't have any major problems. I live kind of on a hilly part of town, but we did get a lot of rain, some flooding, and actually lost power for right at 24 hours. We had a telephone, I'm sorry, a tree fall across, knocked down a telephone pole. So we lost power for 24 hours. But other than that, it was pretty quiet for me here in Atlanta. I mean, it was kind of cool to see all the neighbors pitching in and volunteering for help. And right down the street, almost next door, they did have power. So we got like a listserv email blast for our neighborhood, and they offered to any put ice cream in the fridge or a cell phone charge or anything like that to come on over. So it's kind of cool to see the community come together.
Oh, for sure. It's crazy to see all the damage that storm came through and did. I mean, in some of the places I wasn't even expecting it to go to. North Carolina being one of them. It's surreal to see, but hopefully any of our members that have been in the path of the storm or had some kind of a brush with it, hopefully y'all are doing well and uh, it hasn't affected your ability to live or race. So we'll uh, we'll touch some more on that and this week in motorsports, but we'll go ahead and hop into it. So I'll go ahead and go first. And again, touching on the storm that occurred, it's good to see some of the support coming out. I seen today that 2311 Motorsports is putting out $1 million, I believe, in donations to try and help get food and stuff out to places affected in Carolina since they're based there in Charlotte. Um, I seen Joe Gibbs was trying to helicopter in food and supplies and such. Um, it's good to see this. I'd love to see more teams come out and support this, and I'm sure we will over the course of the week. Just with everybody trying to, I guess, not affect all the rescue and reconnaissance that's going on, not just in North Carolina, but in Georgia and Florida and Tennessee. So it's cool to see the support from all the different race teams and sporting organizations, so they can get these communities back up and running. That flooding, man. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the pictures and stuff. That flooding out in Asheville and Eastern Tennessee it's got to be once in a lifetime stuff right there.
Yeah, I heard Asheville is pretty much its own island.
Yeah. So I think there were parts near the Asheville area. I don't know if it was Asheville itself, but parts near the Asheville area that had 30 feet of water, which is insane to even think about. I mean, what do you do? I know there aren't skyscrapers out there, so what do you do? Find the closest hill and get on top of it, I guess, and as long as it ain't mudsliding. So those guys were kind of just, I guess, stuck in it, man. Just, yeah, I mean, you ain't really got anywhere to go if you can't evacuate. And I mean, again, once in a lifetime thing. So it's good to see the outpouring of support from all the race teams, and again, it's other sport teams and such. So it's good to see people helping out the community. Um, I know we didn't have much racing throughout the weekend. IndyCar is off because they ran their championship a couple weeks ago. Formula One, I'm hearing, is on their break, which to me seems like they get a lot of these things, man. Another, what, 3 weeks, 4
Yeah,
weeks they
3
have off?
weeks. Yeah, they went from Singapore, to Austin, Texas. COTA is the next race. So they take time to come back to their home base in Europe and then ship everything over. I'm sure it takes a little while for the boat to cross the pond.
Oh, and so I kind of wonder how that's going to work if they're shipping their boats over, or if they ship their cars over. Do they go through a port of entry? And if so, if those ports close down tonight, is that going to affect them getting their cars in?
Yeah, I don't know if they're. I mean, I use that
You use
the
that term
shipping
just
the
to,
boat,
yeah, yeah, I
but
got you.
it could be airplane too. I'm not 100% sure. I do know that they're pretty pretty amazing. The organization that it takes to get all the equipment and the pit boxes and the pit pits itself and the stores and all the parts and pieces. They're not only two cars but a backup chassis and all the backup parts. They're pretty, organized, and is definitely an understatement for those guys.
Yeah, I'd love if there's anybody that knows the logistics on how these guys get these things across the deep blue sea there, whether it's by plane, whether it's by boat, or whether they just box it up in pieces like the army used to do back in the day and send it over in pieces so they can piece it together. I'd love to kind of get an idea on how all that works. But
Um,
oh,
I'm gonna say they fly. I mean, if you think of all the different places they have to be week after week, there's no way they're gonna get it. Typically by sea travel.
so are they like jumbo jetting that thing, just pushing it in there in the cargo bay, and
I would assume
man,
I think they have
they're
containers.
not NASCAR. They can't just drive everywhere.
yeah, true,
Right.
true. But to me, it just seems like it would be more. I don't know. It's more beyond belief to me that they would have a jumbo jet that they just shove this car into. Because when it comes to my mind, it's like one of those troop carriers where they can jump out the back with the parachutes, and
C-130s.
yeah, it's something like that where they just shove it up in that cargo bay and just let it sit there. Or, I don't know. Maybe they do disassemble it and put the car together. I mean, they can, for the most part, piece that car together during a pit stop. So
Yeah, pretty much between practice sessions. I'm pretty sure they do ship it over in parts because a lot of the parts are arriving, just in time from the manufacturer. So they just kind of box them up and ship them. So the Google machine says that F1 teams use a combination of air, sea, and road transportation to move around the world. The logistics are complex and require strict schedules. F1
there we
teams
go.
use shared planes organized by Formula One management. Each team pays for the space they use. F1 cars are transported in two loads: critical equipment and non critical equipment. Critical includes the chassis, engines, tires, wings, and computers. C, teams use freight for international races. Before the season, each team packs up to 5 shipping containers with non critical equipment. These containers are shipped by boat from each flyway destination to the next. Teams use trucks to drive across continents. Motorhomes, individual units that make up the motorhomes, are filled with furniture, car parts, and other equipment shipped to the next destination by road or ferry. Pirelli transports the tires on separate planes, and trackside cameras. Formula One management handles the 150 trackside cameras and miles of cables to enable transmission of TV images. For more, click here. Oh, sorry. Um, yeah, so
That
that's
was the part you
quick
weren't
Google.
supposed to read. Um,
It's mind blowing how they do it, though.
I'm sure they don't use FedEx.
I was just about to say. So, from what I gathered from that is that they do not use FedEx or UPS or the postal service, whatever it is over in Britain. We'll have to ask Ben. But yeah, you are not sending that stuff FedEx. It's gonna be stuck on the belt. Gonna be doing that box loop that I sent you, Justin. Just sitting there tumbling.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that.
But yeah, so Formula One's coming back here in another couple weeks, so we'll have a little bit to talk about on those fronts. Did you watch the Xfinity or Cup race, James?
Oh yeah, man, what a race! Race is. Uh, I really enjoyed the Xfinity race. Those old, what I don't know which generation they are, but incredible racing with the Xfinity cars.
I hear those are the old Car of Tomorrows. Just they changed the rear wing, the
Wouldn't
spoiler.
wouldn't surprise me. I think some of that stuff trickles down and stays relevant.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome that they're able to put on a good show. It just shows that through time and development, the product gets better. Because I remember the Car of Tomorrow back when it first came out, I hated the racing, and I mean we're kind of seeing that with some of the tracks with the next gen, but um, it's interesting to see how they can take those old cars and make a couple changes here, a couple changes there, and actually puts on a really good show.
It's cool to see the cars still have some life, not just one race and they either go to the scrapyard or somebody's backyard or, the vintage racing.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of hot heads after that Kansas race. It looked like a lot of disagreements, especially the Cole Custer and um, he was Chandler Smith. He was getting a little heated with Chandler Smith. Basically, didn't mince words in saying that he has one coming to him. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
I didn't think there was a. I think once they watch the replay, they'll see that it was just hard racing. I think the one that
Yeah.
really boggled me was Austin Hill and Riley Herbst. I mean, I don't know what Austin Hill was thinking.
No,
He just,
basically spun
He
him
wasn't.
into stage 2, right?
yeah, dude, he just turned right into him, and he was. I don't know what he was expecting. Said he was looking in his mirror and not looking up ahead, but that's still in your peripheral, even if you're looking in the mirror. So I don't know. I don't buy anything that comes out of that dude's mouth.
Sometimes I wonder if Austin Hill doesn't even have a spotter, though.
Hey, or a blind spot, or Stevie Wonder up there.
I mean, you and I chatted like every week he's apologized. I mean, he's apologized to 80% of the field by now.
Yeah.
I
don't know how he still has a ride. I don't know who's paying for it, but
It's all those super speedway wins.
okay, prize money will only get you so far, I hope.
Exactly. Cup Series racing there was kind of interesting. I thought a lot of comers and goers. The fact that once you got back in traffic, the only car that looked like I take that back. So there are two cars in the beginning half of the race that looked like they could pass in traffic. One being Joey Logano and the other one being Ryan Blaney. And as the race went on, I'm thinking Logano got away from setting up the car, or the setup. His crew chief got away from setting up the car, and Blaney must have stuck with it, because at the end of that race, it looked like the only car that could pass in traffic was Blaney. So it put on some good racing. I don't know what Christopher Bell's deal is, whether he kind of gets in his own head going through some of the corners. And I mean, that was stage 1, trying to close out stage 1, he put it in the wall. Stage 2, trying to close out stage 2, he put it in the wall. Kind of the same kind of situation. So I don't know if he's just lack of concentration or what, but he's got to tighten those things up if he wants to win a championship.
I agree with you, though. I mean, we should go to Kansas 4 times a year, I think. I mean, the way they fan out, and they're it's just killer racing, and tires seem to be doing okay. I mean, Kyle Larson must have run over something that kind of hurt him. He didn't even get the engine oil up the temperature before he was in the back. And my driver of the race goes to Chase Elliott. I know I'm a little biased because I'm a Georgia guy, but going from the back of the pack after engine change to top 10, I mean, he was doing some passing.
Better than Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I mean, going from the back to the front, and that was the thing. Somebody, I forget who it was. Somebody was saying Martin. Oh, it was one of the pit road reporters was saying Martin Truex Jr. coming from the back to the front, and it showed him starting in 19th, and he was in 9th place. And I was like, when did 19th place become the back? I was like, show Chase Elliott. That man is charging from the back to the front. So
the race almost kind of like, you're talking about them fanning out and everything, and Anthony, like you said, it was, Ryan Blaney could put that car anywhere. He ran the bottom a lot, but he was able to like hold speed doing it. But it almost reminds me of kind of what Auto Club has always been.
Yep.
You know, they're all it's a wide track, multiple grooves, moving around 3, 4 wide is you know pretty norm. You know, through traffic. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
it was a pretty good race.
yeah. The restarts are pretty cool. If you don't protect that inside, you're going at least 4 wide into the corner. Um, the widened grooves were good to see. See people. It looked like a majority of people tried to run that top line, but then you had some people that could pass on the bottom. Blaney. It looked like his car could really pass anywhere. I was thinking he was going to win that race, and then what amazes me is that they had that tire issue. Came in pit, went a lap down, and still they ended up with what, third place? Was it third or I know it was a top 5, but that's a championship
Saving
drive.
you race probably. Yeah.
No, that's a championship drive right there. I mean, you go from the absolute worst day to finishing in top 5. I mean, if you can do that, because Logano even got mired back in traffic and he didn't make it up. Blaney was able to do that, and that's a championship drive. So that seeing that kind of puts those guys cemented in my final 4 there. So they're one of the only ones I can say are actually going to be there.
So this is going to be a hot take, but another one of my favorites, favorite moments of the race was when the crowd actually stood up and screamed for Kyle Busch when he was leading. I mean, I know there's a lot of haters out there, but it was cool to kind of see people recognize the effort that it's taken with his changes this season and how he's kind of come back and fans are starting to get on his side again. I thought that was kind of cool.
I
So
think. Oh, good.
you finish your thought. You might be going along the same
Well,
lines as what I was thinking.
well, my thing is, even though there's a lot of haters, I think people are seeing like the struggle this guy's gone through and the fact that he's doing something historic. It's what, 20, almost 20 years with a win. He's working on his 20th.
Yes.
And people want to see they like I don't think the haters want to go to the point where it's like, oh yeah, no, this guy doesn't need this. Like he's worked for those 20 years. So I think everybody wants to see this happen and just the struggles this guy's been through this year and the close races where he's only lost by either a bumper or a car length or not wanting to be the aggressive guy to move Chase Briscoe at Darlington. It's I think it's something that all the fans want to see is him get that win before this season closes out. And then they go back to hating when the season starts next season. And if it comes to the point where he ain't winning races, start cheering again. But that's my thoughts. Were we kind of thinking the same thing there?
A little bit. So, what did happen to poor old Kyle Busch during that race? I mean, it looks like, the seas had parted, all was right in the world. He's going to sail off. He was beating Ross Chastain. He battled him back and forth for the lead of the race. And what happened with, 30 some laps to go?
Oh man, this the most unfortunate thing ever. Briscoe just left him a lane wide enough for his car. And I don't know, man. I mean, you're leading the race. Kyle's, he's got the experience, the championships, and everything, and he puts his car where only him and a sheet of paper in between the two can probably get past Briscoe. Um, I get it. He wants to keep Ross behind him, but I mean that's a risky move. You don't know if that guy's going to wash out to the wall. You don't know what. I mean, uh, he didn't blame Briscoe, surprisingly, after the race. At least from what I heard, he said that he got up close to him and the air just
Yep.
basically threw his car into the wall. But still, that's some bad luck. And I mean, watching it on TV, I thought Briscoe totally put him in the wall. But it's good to see. It's good and interesting to see the maturity of Kyle Busch throughout the years.
So yeah, they showed the replay, and I mean, at first glance, it looked like Briscoe tried to slam the door, you know,
Hmm.
and turns out the cameras don't lie. So um, yeah, it was
Yeah,
interesting. I think I think Kyle, like you said, yeah, he didn't blame him. I think it totally looked like the air just got taken off of him for sure.
yeah. And again, it's something that I'm sure if Kyle could go back in time like all these drivers could, he probably would have taken the low lane or at least waited to get his run on the backstretch to pass Briscoe instead of putting up between the wall and him. Not a whole lot of exits there if something goes sideways. But Chase Briscoe, wow. Ross Chastain ended up winning the race. What do you guys think of the watermelon smash?
It's a signature,
Yeah,
a signature move.
yeah. The wife and I were having a conversation about it, and I said I feel bad for wherever track worker has to go out there and take the old broom and shove that watermelon down into the grass.
Hose it off.
Yeah, yeah. We were
Yeah,
kind of wondering like if the track workers are just like, oh no, he's winning. Don't win. We don't want to have to clean this up. But
it was cool. He went down and grabbed a bite, grabbed a piece, and started munching on it to cool off and refresh.
yeah, I mean it's good to see Ross win a race. It's always good to see him whenever somebody else wins. He's like usually the first person in victory lane congratulating them. So it's good to see that come around for him. That way, Trackhouse has both their drivers in the winning circle this year. So um, I'd say that's about all we got for the this weekend and or this week in motorsports. This weekend in motorsports. Wow. We'll go ahead and move on to the road series that was out in Misano last Tuesday. Correct?
One more real world thing. There's
Oh, go ahead.
drum roll, please. 9 days and counting for the Petit Le Mans practice the cars to roll on track. Practice one. I'm pretty excited about that coming up in 2 weeks. Road Atlanta. Anybody comes, drop me a line. Let me know you're there. Love to meet you.
Oh, you guys heard it there. Go visit James out at the track, guys.
Open invitation. Anybody, he'll cook you a lobster and fillet, whatever you need. It's all on James.
Man,
That's
I'm
what he told
rolling.
me, at least. That's what he told me.
We're rolling 10, 15 people deep. We got a couple of crews that we're spotting all over the track. We have home base at probably 4 or 5 different corners. So
Damn,
yeah,
these guys do it right.
we have a good time.
Oh, awesome. Well, hopefully you guys enjoy. I expect to see some pictures, and we'll probably get the rundown on the week following at the cool down lap. So
That's right.
awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it then, James. Cars were the road series was out in Misano. I know myself and JT couldn't participate.
Yeah.
Real life stuff. But how'd everything go, man? Everything go smooth out there?
That was one of my big stories is how many drivers in the top 10 or in the points were missing from the race. So it could be, I don't know about a big swing one way or the other, but some guys are coming up and some guys are dropping down and it's kind of getting closer and closer in the middle. But yeah, Misano is the first time that I've seen it on the Midwest Motorsports schedule. And from what I could tell, everybody seemed to like it pretty well. There's not too many, you know, incidents where people didn't know where the track goes, or not nobody's driving over each other, missing the line drastically. Even in the middle or the back, there were great battles all throughout the field, and top four tend to break away by the time the first pit stop came around. Of course, one and only pit stop, but Chase Fincher, um, Logan Bowl, Jesse Coffey, even Francis Faustino was up there. Um, Walker McNulty was hanging in there. Like say the first 7 or 8, for the first 25, 30 minutes, top 7 were all within 3 seconds of each other. So, but Jason Phillips was missing. Justin Thaler was missing. Um, Glickner was missing. Adrian Fedorowski was missing. So there was I could feel the miss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the guys that were there, I mean, you could throw a blanket over the top four again with Chase, Logan Bowl, Jay McNeely, Michael Odell, the top four. They were, I mean, just lead follow for the first 15 to 20 minutes, of course, sticking their nose out, being annoying to each other, but a lot of really smooth racing. And Misano is really a motorcycle track. It's designed with long sweeping corners. So, and decreasing in most of the case. So you really had to decide when you're braking, and it's really difficult to brake in a straight line when the track is curving away from you. So you had to be really careful with your brake modulation to maintain that kind of lap time. So Justin, did you get any practice at all on Misano, or did you know you were out so you didn't want to spend time on it?
No, I did. Just because for me, Masana is one of those tracks. When I first kind of really started sim racing, and the ACC was always
Right.
kind of one of my favorites. And it honestly recently came to iRacing, maybe within the last 6 months to a year, I think, in one of the newer updates. And I think it's a really fun track. Um, there's a couple of really technical spots, and like you said, the long flowing corners. To be able to carry the speed through some of those kink sections, and make sure you're not, going to wash out off track or anything on exit. It can be super challenging. The high speed sections are really fun there because it's not just a long big straightaway, right? And um, the technical aspect of the track as well. So yeah, to me the GT4 felt really really fun there. So unfortunately, that was one circled on my calendar I didn't want to miss. But I had some work obligations, had to go out of town all week. But it is what it is. It'll likely be on there next season as well.
I hope so. Fun was the exact word I was going to use, Justin, and you summed it up perfect. You said it's a really fun track. It looked like everybody was out there having fun because some of the corners, it's hard to tell where the off track start. Of course, you know right away, but and the corners on the curbing, sometimes you could use the camber and the banking or the curbing kind of help to get the car rotated, which I saw some people doing it a couple of different places with intention. Unfortunately, it caught Logan Bowl out. Logan Bowl, so Logan Bowl led from the pole and led most of the race. Chase Fincher and Shea McNeely were right there. Michael Odell was not as consistent lap after lap as we've seen him in the past. Um, I know Jesse Coffey was with him for a minute, and then Walker McNulty, Francis Faustino, John Daniels had a really good race uh, from fifth on back. Um, and like I say, it was really impossible to tell who was going to do what uh, to predict what was going to happen. So you just had to let the race play out, and it was a lot of fun to call. If you didn't get a chance to watch the replay, I highly suggest it. It's still on the Twitch stream, and it's up on YouTube as well on the Midwest Motorsports page. So uh, check it out. It was great fun calling it. And Chase Fincher pulled a made made a good move on Logan Bowl again from the pole. And the Porsche led most of the race. There was Porsche, McLaren, and BMW all in the top four. Shea McNeely was also in a Porsche. So I don't think that one car really had a major advantage over another. So it was really level playing field. And the off tracks that I mentioned before kind of bit Logan Bowl with 3 laps to go. He was pushing real hard, trying to get up there with Chase, and got an off track. Actually spun trying to make a move on the exit of, I believe it was 15 or 16, one of the last 2 corners and took a little too much curb, spun it, and luckily Shea McNeely and Michael Odell missed him. But as he was correcting, he went off track and had to do a drive through before it was all over. Still ended up with a P7 at the end. Um, so Chase Fincher brings it home. A little bit of pit strategy. His pit was about 5 seconds less than Jay McNeely and Michael Odell. Um, Walker McNulty with a P4. And shout out to Francis Faustino with the top 5. I know he's going to downplay it, saying people were missing that may have been in front of him, but I don't know. Francis was on point pretty much all night. John Daniels and Francis were having a really good race. They went back and forth a couple of times. But once John Daniels pitted, Francis Faustino stayed out and was able to get about a 5 or 6 second gap. And John never saw Francis again. So Francis Faustino, P5, Jesse Coffey, P6, Logan Bull, like I said, P7, John Daniels, 8th, and the AM division winner, Ron Kabiltas, and the McLaren came home P9 overall. And the next nearest AM was P16, was Dan Gish. So a 7-spot gain for Ron Kabiltas with a big lead now in the championship.
Yeah.
It was just a great race. Like I say, highly recommend that you go back and watch it. There was not a lot of crashes, not a lot to write off about on that. So if you're a guy that likes seeing bent sheet metal and guys driving into the pits to get repairs, this is not the race for you. This is one of those races where just cranking out the laps and seeing where you end up coming out of the pits and make your move where you can.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like it was a great race. I'm kind of bummed I couldn't make it, but I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow's race. Out in
Long
Long
Beach.
Beach. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I haven't ran Long Beach in
For 100 minutes.
Endurance. 2 pit stops, baby.
So I haven't ran Long Beach in probably a couple of years, actually. I want to say Formula was probably the last time I ran it. And
You better find some rig time, buddy.
yeah, I'm going to get some practice in. Probably tomorrow morning, we'll see. But I'm excited for it. From what I'm gathering, it's going to be dark, so I got to make sure that the pit crew checks the headlight bulbs, make sure none of them burn out before we go out, because it's going to be it's going to be a dark one.
Something tells me there's going to be a lot of drama in the LBC tomorrow night.
Yeah, and what time can our viewers catch that one?
7:00 is the session open time, and 7:15, I believe, is qualifying. 7:25 is the scheduled start time, depending on when people finish their qualifying and grid up.
You guys heard it there. So we look forward to getting the viewers in tomorrow to watch the road guys out at Long Beach and see how that unravels.
This is the 3rd season I've seen it on the schedule, and I think that the drivers are getting more and more familiar with it. The tricky part, I think, one of the tricky parts is going to be the start coming off of the hairpin. So make sure you listen to Race Control. Josh Watt's going to have some special instructions about gridding up and when the race actually goes green, and if you're allowed to spread out or overtake before you get to the stripe. When do you go? So make sure you listen to Josh Watt Race Control for those special Long Beach instructions.
Yeah.
Right, Justin?
Otherwise,
Yes.
we're all going to be piled up there in that turn.
Yeah, let's not do that. I know last season was everybody there was quite a few people stumbling over each other there at the hairpin if you're further back on the grid. So yeah, let's all get through there before we decide to start it. So
Yeah, let's at least make it to the fountain.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, like you said, is the back of the field where everybody, I mean, they might, the I don't know who calls green, 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 but your pit crew, your spotter may say green, 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 and you're still coming into the hairpin. No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the leaders, it might be green, but
Right.
if you didn't set a good quality time, it might not. Yeah, it's no different than oval. Just because the green flag waves, if you're sitting in 18th, doesn't mean you can drive through.
Right.
The guy in front of you.
You still have to get up,
Um,
and 4X's count coming to the green as well. So I believe there were some penalties last time,
mhm.
even on the start before they got to the start finish line. So just get through it. It's a 100-minute race. A lot can happen. You're really racing the people around you. You know that from the lap times. So, like I said, my recommendation is just follow through, get around the hairpin. The start finish line is pretty far down, past even past the pit entrance. So they're going to be holding up and going reasonable speed until I guess they decide to go. So I think they usually do a pretty good job of holding off.
Can I offer my unsolicited advice if you're starting towards the back?
Please.
There's no reason to try and rush yourself and cause any issues around that hairpin if you're in the back of the field, because without a doubt you're going to catch everybody else on the opening lap by the fountain section anyways.
Right.
I mean, you might lose a spot or two, as um, you're trying to get through the hairpin, but I mean, everybody's going to be still fumbling over one another probably until they come back around to the start finish. I mean, it's that type of course. I mean, there's going to be guys probably trying to go too wide still on the opening lap and maybe risking it or not, but you're going to catch those guys. You're not going to, and like you said, James, it's a 100-minute race, and it's almost like the Nürburgring. It's that track you kind of have to just race the track and maybe not the competition at certain points. So, yeah, let's just try and make it a really clean start. Let's make sure everybody can have an opportunity to get a lap or two, cleanly in before the gloves really come off.
Yeah, I think coming around that hairpin, it's okay to go single file and double up after you get through the hairpin, even if you're in the back few rows. They tried to go too wide through it, and not many of them were able to make it. So, and if one person messes it up, everybody behind them gets in a traffic jam, and then you really do lose the time. So, get around that hairpin, even if you have to go single file, you'll still have time to double up before you get to the start finish line. Be patient.
For
But
sure.
once the helmet goes on and the it's the real deal, sometimes we lose common sense, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not pointing fingers anywhere, but yeah, it could ruin a lot of people's race if they get held up because somebody 3 rows in front of you made a mistake.
Yeah, and just another piece of advice, drivers: keep your head on a swivel. If somebody puts their car in a wall, make sure you listen to your spotter so you ain't going into a corner blind and causing a pile up. I mean, Josh would probably love it because then that beautiful Ford Mustang safety car gets to hit the field.
Yeah,
As much as
But
we love Josh, we don't want to see him bring out the safety car.
exactly. So everybody just let's go out there, run a good clean race, keep your heads on swivels, and try not to be overly aggressive where it's probably not the smartest idea to be.
and
So
with 2 pit stops, you're going to have time to pull a little strategy, maybe save some tires. The concrete walls do not give at all, so there might be some damage. You have to come in and get some repairs. So, yeah, you never really know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of my favorites on the calendar.
yeah. All right. So I think we've covered the road series pretty well there, guys. I know Oval's off. We are coming back here in a couple weeks with our new season, but I do have some of the poll results I'd like to share with everybody tonight, and we can go through those and kind of show you guys some of the changes that are coming to the rule book. One of these weeks upcoming, I'd like to kind of go over all the changes that happen in the rule book. That way, we're all on the same page. Again, it's the driver's responsibility participating in the series to actually look at the book, and understand it, and ask any questions need to be asked. But and one of the upcoming episodes prior to the start of the Oval Series seasons starting, we'll go over the changes that occurred. I got them listed in Discord, so I know where to find them. So without further ado, are you ready for this one here, James, as we roll through
Yeah,
this?
buddy. Yeah,
All right.
most definitely.
So on the screen, guys, I've just went ahead and just put up basically a snippet of the polls. So one of the questions we asked in the Oval Series was changes to the penalty system, like our IPL, or I guess how we could make our racing cleaner for our league, because there was a lot of times on the short tracks, Rockingham, Bristol had a couple. I know Martinsville historically has had a good bit of cautions, but how can we clean up these races? And we put these polls out just to get your guys' thoughts on it. So it looks like a majority of the league wants to move with incident limit changes. So starting at a 10x, you guys going to be issued a stop and go by race control. 15x is a pass through and an EOL for the next race, which pass through will be issued by iRacing, and then 20x. So we've moved our disqualifying limit down to 20. So once you get a 20x in the race, iRacing is going to boot the driver out, and we're going to issue a pit lane start at the next race. So that was something that was voted on. We're going to see if it cleans up the racing. I think it will, personally, because we're going to have less incidents to deal with. So hopefully other drivers look at it that way and try to drive just a little bit leaner until it matters. Those last 20, 25 laps, I'd say.
I love that. I love the drive through. I think that's a brilliant way to help everybody stay on top of their incidents.
Well, this next slide is something that I'm actually excited about. So the addition of a crown jewel race. So for anybody that's ran in our league over the past couple seasons, they've noticed that our Charlotte race kind of resembles the Coke 600. So it's one of our longest races of the season. So we talked about during our group meeting on how we wanted to kind of change this season, and the thought came up to add another long race. Why have the road guys have all these fun endurance races when we can have one ourselves? So our Oval Series decided to go with Darlington to replicate the Southern 500. So much like the Coke 600 race that we run, it's not going to be all 500 miles at Darlington. So we run 75% of the full scheduled length. So what that works out to in Cup is 275 laps around Darlington. So all you guys that have them force feedback wheels, make sure you guys getting your arm workouts in, because that's going to be a long night of turning. And hopefully by that point in our season, we have our tire wear down, so we aren't chewing through our tires like crazy. I believe we're getting 6 sets for that race. So, yep, 6 sets. So everybody be ready for that one. That one's going to be a grueling race, but also I think it's probably going to be one of the better races. Darlington is one of those tracks that you have to respect the track. And it's much like road racing. You are racing the track more so than you are racing the competitors. And once you get a groove going, you'll love that track. You'll love it or you hate it. That's how we're going to come out of that one. So our last poll that we released for, at least on the Cup Series side, was the international race selection. So we are going back to Motegi I know we did it a couple seasons ago. It's kind of like a WWT layout. In a way, it's a little bit more wider of a track, I'd say, but it's a fun track. It surprised me to see how many responses we got on this one, and it wasn't overwhelmingly just for the oval. So, good job, guys. Kind of branching out there and actually putting votes into other things. So, excited to go back to Motegi. I believe that one's later in our season, so we'll release the full schedule once we wrap it up. There's still one race we're working on here, so the Cup Series schedule will be released here shortly once we get that last race in there. But that's
It
it.
is. Twin Ring is race 19 of 22.
19 of 22. So
And in your statement of being proud, they still picked all the wrong answers.
I know. I would have loved to see these Cup cars out of Suzuka. I mean, Suzuka Silverstone would have been cool. Did we have the next gen at Brands Hatch, or was that the Gen 6?
Trucks.
No, we ran trucks in the next gen. I don't know if we ever ran the Gen 6.
We ran Xfinity
Brands.
there.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
that was.
I don't think, yeah. I mean, Brands is just a classic. I think you could race anything there, and it would be a great show myself.
The trucks and Xfinity that's fun because the whole rear end, like the rear end's beside you the entire track, so you're really driving on the edge. But that's the 3 polls that we released for the Cup Series side of things. We'll move on to the Truck Series polls here. So much like the Cup Series, everybody decided to go with a change to the incident limit. So we're doing 30x for a DQ. 20x is going to get you a pass-through penalty, and a 15x is going to get you a stop and go. So there's a little bit more leeway there because we view the Truck Series as basically it's our starting series, where people normally would go to, I guess, refine their oval series craft, and we're expecting some mistakes out of there. So we put a little bit more of a cushion in there for the incidents, and that's our reasoning behind that. So trucks also get a crown jewel race. You guys are going to Indianapolis. So mathed it out. It's going to be about 100 laps around Indianapolis. That's a 2.5 mile track. It's either a 2 mile or 2.5 mile track. So you guys are getting quite a bit of miles out of that track. It ought to be interesting to see. I believe you're getting 4 sets of tires. So yeah, 4 sets of tires. So use them wisely. It ought to be a fun race, a long race. So thankfully, hopefully anybody participates in that doesn't have to work Saturday morning. You guys probably gonna be going a little after midnight on that one. And then our last one is the international selection. Again, much like the penalty section, the truck series all decided to go to Motegi. Fortunately, this is not the only time we have ran Motegi in the truck, so we know the truck will run there. We know the setup and everything already, so all that's taken care of. Again, there's one race here we're trying to figure out for y'all to fill in an empty slot. So once we get that in, this schedule will also be released in its entirety so you guys can see all the laps, all the comp caution laps, and tire sets. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure we'll make an announcement once we get the schedule figured out and released. Again, I wouldn't expect it to be too long. And then again, one of these upcoming episodes, I'll go over the rule changes. We didn't have too many. JT, if I am correct, it looked like we probably had less than 10 rule changes, but each one of them was a significant change. So there's a lot to go over. Some stiffer penalties here and some other things with some details that still need, I guess, fine-tuned in the schedule. So we're trying to get everything wrapped up here as quick as we can to get the new season started. And looking at the schedule here, it looks like the Truck Oval Series is slated to start October 11th, and that'll be for our duels. And October 18th will be the first official race with Daytona. That's our first official points race. Cup guys, if you're listening, our first race is going to be the duels October 13th at Daytona. Non-points race there. And our first points race is October 20th at Daytona. So, season's upon us, guys. Let's get ready to go and let's make it a good one. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to get back to some racing, and hopefully everybody else is too.
I am.
Preach.
Going to be awesome. 22-week season. Man, that's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to send you some lozenges or something. You hear me doing a lot of talking over the next couple of months.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm all right. My friends are thankful that I kind of chill out during the week. I'm not as talkative as I used to be, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that about covers it, guys. That's everything I got on my end. You guys all good?
I'm great, man. Good show. Thanks, Ant.
Yep.
No problem, guys. All right. So that wraps it up here, guys. Again, you can tune in tomorrow at 7:15 for qualifying, 7:25 for the green flag out at Long Beach. You can find it where you're finding the podcast right now at the Rivenvale Twitch channel. It's on the screen right there if you need to see it. Otherwise, y'all have a great week. And of course,
Don't forget to stay in your lane.